Good evening, everyone. If we could please rise, we'd like to begin the meeting. Can we please salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Here.
Ms. Conway? Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
Mayor Elliott?
Here.
Mr. Gendron?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin? 7 present.
7 present. Thank you. And good evening. Welcome to Lowell City Council Chambers and the school committee meeting. First order of business on a special order of business. Spotlight on Excellence. Middle School Science and Engineering Fair. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, we're celebrating our advancement in 5th through 12th grade science, and we have 2 events we want to recognize. The first one is the Middle School Science Fair, which took place at the Bartlett Community Partnership School, had over 70 projects and great response from parents, over 200 parents. And so I wanted to turn it over to the coordinator of Science and Social Studies, Martha Cohn, so she can speak with a little bit of detail and present some children.
Thank you. I'm pleased tonight to be joined by a number of students behind me that participated in the first ever District Science Fair. We had over close to 200 students that actually participated, and what's more exciting is we have 23 of these projects moving up to the Regional State Fair, Northeast Regional Fair that will be held at Lowell High School. So it was really an honor to have those students, and I know they're excited about it. I'd like them to maybe come in and step in, those that came in tonight. We have a couple that would actually like to talk to you about their project, if that's okay. Anutsa from the Wang School. Want to come up? Right here. And Christian, both of these right here. Right up here.
If everyone could just please come to the podium so we can make sure you're on television.
So this
Maybe I
is
shouldn't have
Anutsa.
said that.
This is Anutsa from the Wang School. Do you want to tell them what your project was about?
My project was about making my own phonograph out of household items, like items you can find every day. So I made a phonograph out of cans and cups, and I got a record player and some records, and it made music that you could hear.
Very well done. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Christian, and I'm from the Butler Middle School, and my project's about reaction time of the eye and the hand. Basically, we put a paper ball, on a flat surface, and we have like a lower hand versus a higher hand. A higher hand is representing the reaction time of the hand, and the lower hand is representing the reaction time of the eye. And what we're seeing is which hand would grab the ball first. And our data shows that mostly the reaction time of the hand is faster than the reaction time of the eye.
Very interesting. Thank you.
For my science fair project, I found that I used 3 different waters, distilled, spring, and tap water, and I put sugar and made a simple syrup. I put them in beakers and put a popsicle stick with a string attached to it, and I waited 2 weeks, and I found how much they grew, and I tried to find out which water grew larger, and my research showed that the tap water grew the largest, the distilled water grew the least, and that spring was in between.
Very well done.
That was Alexa from the Daily. No? Anybody else? Just say your name and what school.
Hi, my name is Ethan Castillo, and I came from the Butler Middle School. My project was on diamagnetism and trying to see how you could show that water was diamagnetic. What I did was that I had a bucket of water, I put some water in it, I had a little block of styrofoam, stuck a glass test tube full of water inside there, and put N48 neodymium magnet and put it as close as I can to the glass test tube, and it'd move like a sailboat.
You can come together.
I'm Emily Stewart.
And I'm Taylor Meller. We're both from the Butler Middle School.
We also had another partner, Sierra, and she's also from the Butler School. She couldn't come today. Our project is about what the temperature affects the brightness of glow sticks. So we cracked open 4 glow sticks, all the same color, stuck them in cold, hot, freezing, and warm, and we put them in for half an hour, and the cold was the best result for the brightness.
And when we were doing the experiment, we found out that in the hot and cold water, the top of the glow stick, if it was pink or orange, it would turn red or purple.
Very well done. Who's next?
Just one more. Just say who you are in the school and just describe your project. That's all.
My name is Tucker Deschanel. I'm from the Wang Middle School, and my project was called Bounce, and we measured how high balls, different kinds of sports balls bounced when we dropped them from meter high, and then we recorded the data and averaged them out and came with the conclusion that a basketball bounces the highest.
Thank you. As you can see, the kids were really excited about this, and we hope to make it even bigger and better next year. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kahn, for the, well, first, let me thank the students and congratulate you, first, for coming up to the podium. It's not easy to come up and speak in front of folks, and you did a great job. And secondly, congratulations on your accomplishments as well. Mr. Gendron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say briefly, I was, like many of the other members, I was lucky enough to be a judge at that fair, and the excitement in the room was palpable. It's good to see so much excitement about science in the Lowell Public Schools. And the only bad note was that it was very crowded, and that's good and bad, right? Because we had a lot of participants. But I understand we already have plans for a larger venue next year, so hopefully this will get bigger and better as the years go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gendron. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to thank all the parents and teachers and everybody who made this possible, for all the magic markers, for all the poster boards, for the errors and the spelling assistance and all the support that's done by families and teachers to make these things possible. Just brings out the brilliance of our youth. So I'd like to thank each of you for your role at school and at home. Thank you very much.
Okay, motion to accept and place on file by Mr. Conway, second by Mr. Gendron. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next item of the night, item number 4, another spotlight on excellence at Lowell High School, the M2D2 presentation. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To continue our progress as far as new and eventful initiatives at the high school in science, I'd love to present a team who have been working in collaboration with the M2D2 organization on Suffolk Street with the university, and it's all about innovation. I have to say that I am a groupie of these young people. I've seen them present twice. We went to the presentation where they competed against university students and held their own, and so I think you will enjoy seeing how Lowell Public School students are ready for college and beyond. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Roger Morneau, who is the Science Department Chair at Lowell High School. Also in the audience is Mr. Brian Martin, Headmaster. So Mr. Morneau.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. Tonight I'm going to present to you 5 amazing students that make up our inaugural class of the Massachusetts Medical Device Development Center partnership with UMass Lowell, more easily known as M2D2. These 5 students have worked throughout the year with their You Teach mentor, who's also here, Mr. Craig Kaminsky. He's been instrumental in this program. And tonight, they're just going to talk to you about their experience and a little bit about the project they've come up with that they'll actually be presenting at the UMass Lowell Difference Maker competition that begins this Friday. They'll be up against university, undergraduate teams, and they're going to do a great job. So first up is Daniel Ernst.
First, we would like to thank you for welcoming us this night. In discussing how we wanted to go about giving you a greater insight on the experiences we've all had, because we're all coming from different viewpoints. We've decided to take it different pieces working together to just give you a insight on how we all looked at the evolution of our program. It was a partnership with the Massachusetts Medical Device Development Center and UMass Lowell, as well as other partners such as Jeanne d'Arc. So to give you a further insight, we'll all have our individual parts.
My name is Sim, and we got into this program because Daniel and I, our class for AP Physics C, it was dropped, and so we were approached by Mr. Morneau about a new exciting project involving engineering, business, and other aspects of it, and we were really interested in these type of fields, like all of us combined, and so we thought about it, and we were certain that like if we take this course, we would definitely appreciate it. And after the initial pitch off that we had at UMass Lowell on the campus, I knew immediately that like this was what like I wanted to do, and there was like a lot of projects being done, and the amount of research and the engineering aspect of it is what like really drew me in, and yes.
All right, so excuse my appearances. I just came back from the track practice. Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate to be, part of this program through the partnership with UMass Lowell, You Teach, Jeanne d'Arc, and put it together by Lowell High School. I was able to learn entrepreneurship, technology. So for me, for this part, I am the research and development department kind of thing of the project. I develop a prototype. I'm the one who will be working on the app. And without this program, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn about all these. And talk more about it, Brandon.
Thank you, Rithi. I'd like to start off by saying that M2D2, as previously mentioned, it's all about partnerships between different schools like UMass Lowell, Lowell High School, and also that in the end, it's all about the students, the Lowell High School students, us. And what I want to say is that through this program, rather than, say, physics or another class, we've had the opportunity to grow and learn, and not just one field, but in multiple fields. Like, for example, I designed this poster, which was actually entered in the new venture competition at M2D2 itself, and will be soon entered in UMass Difference Maker. Now, this poster, this opportunity gave me the opportunity to express myself artistically. Not only that, but through this course and through learning and through our projects, I've also dabbled into many different things. Like, I actually learned how to make my first app myself on an Android platform, which to me was just amazing. I've learned a lot about technology, a lot about science, a lot about business, and I think that those skills are extremely useful in today's society and are much more relevant to a high schooler's life. And to talk more about it, we have Kathy. Thank you.
Hello, at a podium. This is pretty cool. So honestly, I can say that we have pretty much all been very fortunate to be part of this course, which is M2D2. And the reason for that is that, over these past few months, not only have we grown intellectually, but we've grown socially as well, because we've realized how hard it is, in the world out there. And we've learned about, business and finance and all of those important aspects of life. So we realize that if we can take what we've learned through this class, we can most likely be successful later on in our lives because we've taken all this information as young adults. So we feel that with what we've learned, we can we can really help other individuals as well and kind of like inspire future generations to do the same things we've done. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm going to invite Daniel, who's going to talk about, wrap it up for us.
Thank you very much.
Now that you've had the opportunity to hear from our team, which is developing into a small business, we want to give you the opportunity to be dazzled by what we've come to develop. Being teenagers, we had the opportunity to sit around a room, throw out ideas of what we wanted to develop. What ended up coming together was the idea of a phone case. So what the partnership with M2D2 has given us an insight on different medical opportunities that are out there. And we came up with the idea of an app, a phone case that has multiple medical devices in the back. So at any point in time, an average individual can pull out their phone and better understand the biological aspects of their body. To give a brief example of what we're talking about, we always bring up the idea that we envision this product growing to the point where 10 years from now, a teacher will have their student walk up to them just before their math test and say that they need to go to the bathroom. And the teacher, like you'd see in Star Trek, just scans it with their phone case and says, "No, you don't. Get ready for your test." So what we're trying to do with this product, with the partnership with M2D2, is first learn the small business side. So as citizens, we can grow and help our community, building up the small businesses in first Lowell and then the greater community of the United States, as well as help with the health field in the United States. What we're trying to do, our big goal with this device, with any device that we're planning to come up with, is to cause a health revolution in the United States where people not only learn to better understand their bodies, but with that understanding have a greater opportunity to help and make themselves more biologically beneficial with their everyday lives. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I just have to close it out, we are now in the process of looking towards next year, expanding the program. We're working with Susan Lynn on the grants to perhaps find some additional funding to increase the number of students, because that's obviously it's a challenge for staffing and things like that. But this has been an enormous success. I want to thank the Chancellor and our M2D2 partners, as well as Mr. Moore, have done a great job. What a great group of students. Very proud of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. So, on behalf of the city, Sim, Daniel, Brandon, Rithi, Kathy, and Mr. Martin, Mr. Morneau, we want to thank you. I can tell, we can tell why you're so proud, because we as well, we know they're going to make us proud. Is it this weekend? This Friday? We know you're going to make Lowell proud at UMass Lowell, and I'm very impressed. And when they develop their business, we hope they're going to come and see us in the city, because that's what we want. We want them here. And if that application comes up, I think it's going to be a big hit.
We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the school committee? All set? Next item on the agenda is, again, in special order of business, recognition of local authors. So we have science, and now we have recognition of local authors. Madam Superintendent?
Tonight, as we continue to celebrate excellence, I'd like to introduce you to 4 educators, local educators, who have gone beyond and shared their talents in very meaningful ways. We are celebrating the publication of 2 books. The first one is this one, Good Night, Gavin, I Love You. And so this book is a lovely story about a family working with their child who has autism and the unconditional love. It's a beautiful book. You have this evening Principal Matt Stahl, who is one of the authors, teacher Paula Peters, and illustrator Saul Rodriguez. And the book itself is what you hope you will see in children's literature, a true pictorial view of different children who need to be recognized and celebrated. So I'd like to invite our authors forward. My signed copy I'm going to keep preciously up here, but I'm going to ask Mr. Stahl, Ms. Peters, and Mr. Rodriguez if they'd like to say a few words. And this is Autism Awareness Month as well, so it's perfect timing on all levels. So I welcome you all to come forward.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to be recognized for a cause that is very dear to my heart. To hear the words, "Your son is autistic," can be very devastating for any parent. There were many dark days during the early stages of my autism journey. However, those dark days also brought laughter, unconditional love, and hope. Today is National Light It Up Blue Day. I can't think of a better day to receive this recognition. I would like to take a moment to thank both Matt Stahl and Saul Rodriguez. Both Matt and Saul have been my driving force in regards to Goodnight Gavin, I Love You. They turned my dream into a reality. They worked tirelessly, writing, editing, proofreading, and illustrating. I would also like to take a moment to thank all of Gavin's past, present, and future educators of the Lowell Public School System. They have been our bright lights along this autism journey. Lastly, to my son Gavin, may you always feel accepted, understood, and most importantly, love. Tonight's recognition isn't about fame or fortune. Tonight's recognition is about autism. Again, thank you for this opportunity and this recognition. And with that being said, we have copies of the book for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just have some right there. Can you just pass them out?
Absolutely. Can we get a picture?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Gendron?
One comment, please. In my tour around the city schools,
Can we have you come forward? She has her T-shirt on, so let's get some publicity for it.
This is a previous year. We get new T-shirts every year, but this is, we've been doing it.
Oh, it's a walk around.
You can walk it if you want.
I didn't have my mic on for that one.
All set, Mr. Gendron? Great, very good, thank you. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. Our second recognition is to recognize Mr. Seng T. Mr. Seng T is a guidance counselor at the Stocklosa School and has been with us for a number of years. His book is entitled The Years of Zero. This is a personal memoir of the survival and the trauma and terror that happened in Cambodia. Mr. T tells a story of his family and what happened to him, and it's a story of survival, hope, love, and a beautiful book. So I wanted to bring Mr. T forward so he could, in fact, speak to us a bit about this book.
Welcome.
I guess I'm a little short. Thank you very much, the school committee members and the superintendent have inviting me to be here tonight. It's a very special honor. And before that, I'd like to introduce my wife, my family, my wife's mom, and my son Ethan, and my daughters Sophia. Yeah. First, I never thought I would be able to write a book, but I have to keep promise my mother wish that someday I would be able to share my story in details. And today I accomplished my book, which is I titled The Years of Zeros. It is a story of my life when I was about my son age 7 years old, survived during the worst genocide in the human history. And I would like to present my book to each members, and I hope you be able to have time to read it, and thank you very much for reading it. And I hope there is the opportunities for students and staff in the district to read this book. So thank you very much.
Yep.
Just want to share that this is the photo that they captured me doing when I was in the refugee camp in the Camp magazine, which was written by Roger Rosenblatt. I am honored that Roger Rosenblatt wrote the foreword for the book. And also Bob Simon did. It's a great honor that this is a photo of me when I was in the refugee camp, and this photo is from the Time magazine in 1981. And the article written by Children of War by Roger Rosenblatt, and it's a great honor that Roger Rosenblatt wrote the foreword for my book. And also, it's a great honor that Bob Simon wrote a little blurb to my book. So it's a great honor. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Chair, I recognize Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we started tonight, it was an incredible experience for certainly us sitting here and also the people watching it at home. And it certainly shows us, all of us, that there's great things going on in this school system. And tonight, we saw it on all different levels, right from the elementary and the middle schools, the incredible accomplishment that's taking place, and then the presentation that took place with the high school, which students with
unbelievable ideas and vision, and now we have taken it full circle right up to the staff, and we find that here they are writing books, and it's an absolutely incredible experience, and it's one of those nights that it's a home run for everyone. It's very enjoyable, and I congratulate all the people that came forward tonight on the Spotlight in Excellence. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Well said, Mr. Conway. I agree. Further discussion? Motion to accept all three communications and place on file by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda are the minutes. Approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Wednesday, March 19th, 2014. Motion by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to accept and place on file. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night. Item number 8, under public participation. We have, I'm sorry, we're back. Permission to enter before we proceed. Permission to enter, April 2nd. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Essex Agricultural and Technical High School in the amount of $9,900 to provide transportation services for 4 students from Lowell to and from Essex Agricultural and Technical High School in Hawthorne, Mass. Funding will be provided by the school department transportation budget.
Thank you. Questions from members?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Rosikowicz. Roll call.
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary? Ms. Martin?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Motion carries. Next item, under number 8, public participation, communication from Cheryl Quintel. Ms. Quintel?
I have copies for everybody for the committee.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Hello to everyone on the committee. Obviously, you know why I'm here. I'm Cheryl Quintal. I live right down the street in the Acre. I grew up in Lowell all my life. I'm a deaf person. I'm a strong ASL user. And I've experienced many different types of education throughout my life. Oral method of communication, which failed. ASL, which I currently use. And ASL is precious to me. Obviously, we live in America and in a hearing world, and English is a primary mode of communication for most people. But for deaf people, people with cochlear implants, we all have different struggles. And I do value written English and spoken English because you can't survive in America without it. I'm a little bit nervous, I'm sorry, with everyone looking at me, but anyway.
Okay, we all are too.
So I wanted to come here tonight and speak with you a little bit about what I've seen and compare my experiences growing up in education and what's happening today. And it's really, really a sad situation. I mean, I know what my rights are as a deaf person, and you know, physically, the only thing I can't do is hear. So I rely on visual communication and interpreters, or ASL, 24/7. That is something that I need in my life. I became deaf at age 2. And all my life, my parents fought for my rights in the city of Lowell in the public school system. I remember seeing my father fighting for me, but I didn't know what was going on. They didn't sign. And, family members always thought that my father was doing something wrong because they were fighting for me. But it was because I was being oppressed. My father was tired of, you can't do this. His attitude was, you can. And I've obviously gotten my attitude from my father. I've obviously got my political background and views from my father, too, which I cherish. My father spent my whole life fighting for me and fighting for education in the city for me. And every time somebody said that I couldn't do something, my father would say, yes, she can. Just because she's deaf doesn't mean that she can't. You have to provide some type of education and schooling for her. And my father eventually won. And there was a trailer set up next to the Bartlett School, right next to the ice cream stand near the river, and that was a deaf school. It was for deaf kids only. They were separate from the other kids in the school. The hearing and deaf students were separate. And that was so kids could focus on speech reading and the oral method of communication. And that school system really wasn't conducive for deaf students. The setup and environment wasn't good. So my father decided to pull me out of school and send me to Randolph to Boston School for the Deaf, where I could have some equivalent access to education. I went into Boston School for the Deaf at about age 6 because Bartlett wasn't effective for me. BSD was very difficult for my parents because of the distance. I lived in a dorm there at a very young age, and I would come home on the weekends on Fridays, so that was very difficult for my parents. I was just a little kid to be gone that far from my folks, but there was no choice. The access, equal access, wasn't a provision at that time in Lowell for me. And at Boston School for the Deaf, they forbid sign language at that time. You had to learn to speech read. You had to match hearing people. You had to constantly struggle to figure out what people were saying. And that wasn't fun, and it wasn't easy. Children that age, or any age, shouldn't have to struggle like that, and that was a struggle. Hearing people have the hearing privilege, and deaf students did not have that privilege at the time. So at the time, Boston School for the Deaf was an oral school, and then they realized that that placement wasn't good. It wasn't fitting for me. You needed to have ASL, more visual language. Spoken language is not conducive for deaf people. So at age, from 6 years old and on, I just practiced speech reading, and I really felt like I was entered into the education world at age 9. That's when I really felt I started to learn. Up until age 9, I didn't get anything beneficial. That's not my fault, it's not my parents' fault. That was the way, that was what the doctors in the medical world had said, that deaf and hearing people are different, they should be separate, sign language is forbidden. All this time, people just thought that that was the norm. At age 9, they realized that that school was too easy for me, so I transferred to a mainstream program, and it was in Randolph. It was in partnership with Boston School for the Deaf. That way they could see there was a partnership and they could monitor one another and see what the deaf kids were doing in mainstream schools. At the time, children that were learning the oral method were not allowed to even associate with people that were signing. It's kind of like segregation back in the 60s. They had a separate school for black people and a separate school for white people. And that you couldn't imagine that happening today. For that to be permissible to separate hearing and deaf students in a mainstream program is ridiculous. We're equal. You need to have a social aspect. You need to communicate with people and be around people. We're all humans. So as I grew up and went through my education, I was very involved. My parents were very involved with the schools that I was in. The teachers worked with the people, teacher from Boston School for the Deaf worked with the mainstream program, and I did well. I developed and I flourished. My reading and writing skills were a little bit limited because I was delayed before starting to learn ASL, but after I started learning ASL, I flourished. I had a hunger and passion for education. Things were clicking, and that all started at age 9. So the first 9 years of my life were kind of lost. And now I'm seeing the same thing happen all over again. And it strikes a chord with me because I've experienced it. I graduated and I went to college. I went off to Gallaudet. And, you know, at that time, 8% of deaf people went to college. But now remember, the laws have changed. They didn't change so much later. But in the 1980s, 8% of deaf people went to college, and I was one of them. I went to Gallaudet University. I was gainfully employed. I worked in the human service field after that. And then I got married, and I stopped working because I became a full-time mom. And I'm currently still looking for employment because it's very difficult for deaf people to be hired because of oppression, because of barriers to education. It's very difficult to get a job out in the market today. I'm a deaf mom of 2 hearing children, and so I obviously rely on interpreters all the time because my children have a deaf mom. My kids went to the McAuliffe School, and I was so excited to find out that they had a deaf program and they had interpreters ready and available. And the ADA passed in 1990, which provided under the law closed captioning and interpreters. And when I graduated high school and went off to college and went off into the world, you know, I didn't really expect any of this to happen, you know, all of these things taking off. And then I stopped, then I became a mom. So after the ADA had passed in the 90s, I noticed that, you know, the next 10 or 20 years, things didn't really progress. Things kind of went backwards, and they should have been progressing. You know, when I was at Gallaudet University, we had the protest in 1988 for called Deaf President Now to have a deaf president of that college. It's a very famous protest. We won, obviously. And, you know, after that, you know, they had hired a hearing president of the college, and deaf people were not satisfied with that and, you know, ousted that person. So it happened later, but obviously that was one form of discrimination that we faced. So now I've got my kids in the public school system, and their education is integral to me. It's very important. So I thought, great, McAuliffe School has something in place. But what they had in place wasn't effective. And the deaf students and kids with cochlear implants are also kept separate. And I've been told that it's a parent's choice on an IEP, that some parents with children that have cochlear implants don't want to have their kids around deaf kids because it might influence them. But I don't know how that would be a negative influence. I mean, my first language is ASL. My second language is English. My kids, their first language is English, and they also use ASL, and they're not negatively impacted by that. So the attitude of not having deaf students and students with cochlear implants in the same learning environment together is detrimental. I mean, I know my rights as a person and a deaf parent and a parent, and it just leaves me feeling that these kids are separate, and we're all humans, so having a separation between deaf students and hearing students and kids with cochlear implants is, I don't understand. The only difference is that I just can't hear. I don't have any problems, any physical ailments, I just can't hear. And that has a negative impact on people if people are segregated from one another as a result of this. I used to tutor and volunteer at that school, you know, and I was witness to what was going on there. I mean, the books that are used with some of the kids are not at the 4th grade level, they're more at a 1st grade level. And so I'm wondering where the equal education piece will come in and when that will change so it's more suited for people, for the students. I'm wondering what research is done into interpreters and teachers' backgrounds. There doesn't seem to be much that's being done. That's a problem. Last fall, my husband had an accident and he fell. He fell off of a ladder and he almost died. He broke his ribs and he collapsed a lung, and I realized at that time that if I wasn't with my husband, that I wouldn't be able to help my kids out with their curriculum and their education. I'm the mother, and I need to be able to be with my kids and teach my kids. And, you know, if there was something that went wrong and my husband wasn't able to help me, how would I be able to provide for my children? And really, tonight I was offered to have a public school interpreter come and interpret for me this evening, and I turned that down because a lot of the interpreters in public schools either are not certified or not qualified, or oftentimes don't follow the code of ethics as stated by the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. And there just needs to be respect for deaf people and confidentiality, and I mean, you need to have a separation. I need the respect of having separate interpreters that take care of school issues and take care of other matters too. And I felt I was being pushed into using a public school interpreter for this event. And I had requested a sign language interpreter through the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing weeks ago. And at first I was told it was going to be a public school interpreter, and I turned that down. So where are my rights as a parent and a deaf taxpayer in the city to have a neutral interpreter come in? I haven't been satisfied with the interpreters in the school system. In the Robbins School, I had an open house. I went to an open house there once, and I expected that I would have a proficient interpreter, and the principal was doing their opening welcome for the open house, and the interpreter kept saying, "I'm sorry, I can't hear, I don't understand what's going on." And I just expected that maybe it was background noise I couldn't hear or technical difficulties. And my daughter was sitting right next to me, and she kept nudging me and saying, "Mom, the interpreter's not accurate, the interpreter's not correct." And it was my own child that had to sign to me and tell me that the interpreter that was there doing the presentation was not accurate. So I decided that, you know, I wasn't going to get flustered about it. I'd rather talk to the teachers one-on-one, and I didn't need to really attend to that interpreter. And so I decided I would just watch the person that was speaking and not watch the person that was signing. And my daughter kept interjecting and trying to interpret. And I kept trying to keep her out of it because she's my daughter. Her role is to be my daughter and not the interpreter. But she kept saying, "Mom, the interpreter's wrong. She's not following what's being said." And so I wouldn't know this if somebody didn't tell me that. And so afterwards I said, "Are you certified?" And she said, "Well, I'm working at this school. I work at Lowell. I work for Lowell School System." And she was very proud of it. And I said, "Really? You're working as a full-time interpreter with deaf students in the field of education? You're missing things that are being presented." And many students that graduate from mainstream schools don't have adequate services, interpreter services. And when they graduate, some of them either don't graduate, or they graduate at a lower level, or they just get a pass. They just get passed along and passed along. So I figured I had to come here again tonight and just voice my opinion and feelings as a mother and a taxpayer and a deaf person, that the students in the school system need to have quality interpreters, quality education. Finally, a lot of people, the deaf community has spoken up and starting to listen to us, and they're changing the standards. And there's been a lot of action on Facebook, and people in Lowell and my friends and my family, deaf and hearing, all know what's going on. And it's because we're speaking up finally, and we're showing the ugliness of what's going on. What we've asked in the past for the last few years, I mean, I was on the Commission for Disabilities Board for 4 years, and nothing has happened. And finally now, we have got the Children's Bill of Rights that just passed the Senate. It'll be effective in June of 2014, but it just passed March 17th of 2014. And now the public is realizing that there's been lots of problems with educational interpreters in the school system as well as other school systems. And part of the provision means interpreters need to pass the EIPA test with a grade of 3.5 or above. I mean, and a lot of this is education. Some of this information you might not know yet, but this is all new that's come out. And how will Lowell Public School System know if the interpreters that they have are actually proficient? A good example would be Nelson Mandela's memorial. Many of you may have seen on TV the fraud interpreter that was on there. And that really impacted the world, and it really made people stand back and take notice that this is going on in front of people, and because you don't speak that language, you might not know what's going on. The Children's Bill of Rights has been passed to protect deaf students in school systems and provide them with quality, certified, trained interpreters. One of the other provisions is that the interpreters need to be registered with the RID, the Registers for Interpreters for the Deaf, and also register with the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I recently ran into somebody that in town in a store who said that they were ready to drop out of school because they were not getting equal access to the information. And they said that two of the interpreters that they had were in the school library practicing sign language. These are the people that are interpreting for students on a daily basis throughout the city. And if this continues, there's going to be many missed opportunities for access and set them back. There are a lot of there's lots of research and statistics that say very few people, deaf students, 5% of deaf students go to college. Back in my time, there were many, many more. And a lot of it seems to be based on the whole child, and the whole child's needs are not being met first. So I will wrap up. I just want to plant the seed that there is a new law in place, and it's time for Lowell school system, as well as other school systems, to fall in sync with the new law. I mean, I'm having difficulties with my daughter's curriculum as it is. I can't imagine if the deaf children in the school system are not having equal access to the curriculum because of interpreters that are not proficient. I mean, again, I was offered a public school interpreter for this meeting tonight, and I had to decline because of problems that I've had in the past. I mean, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just speaking up as a representative for myself and for the deaf community, and as a parent of hearing children that are going to be in the school department for quite a long time, that we want to have equal access and have quality services. It seems like we take a step forward and then we take a step back. Being on the board of the Disability Commission, there is a lack of accountability. For 4 years I've been there just spinning my wheels and, having my heart broken and just feeling like we're getting nowhere. I'm offering ideas and suggestions and telling what the community needs and speaking up. I mean, I'm not afraid to speak up, obviously. My father's influenced me, and I'm here today speaking up. And my father always told me that I can, and that's resonated with me and stuck with me in my entire life. A long time ago, they told me, you can't drive, you can't get a license. My father fought for me. He said, she's not blind, she's just deaf. She's not sick, she can drive. People said, oh, okay, fine. And then I ended up getting my license. But it was through learning from my father. I was learning to fight for what was right and fight against what was wrong. I mean, all I can do is not hear. And all my life has been a struggle, and I've missed out on lots of information until age 9. And, at home, we communicate in English and sign language, and I have also met people that are foreign language Spanish speakers that have had the same problems that I'm experiencing now. And it's hard to watch and say, oh, it's okay, but I know how I feel, and I've felt this way all my life, and it's time for a change. And, I'm not like a dog. I'm not passive. I have to speak up for myself. And that's how the community is being treated. So I'm sorry if this isn't really a positive, friendly message to end the great night, but I wanted to come and make my testimony. So thank you.
Thank you. That's why we're here. That's why we have public meetings, for people to come and speak and raise issues and bring things to our attention. And we'll continue to have this deliberation right now. Madam Superintendent, I'm sorry.
Well, if you can just promise me that this is just not like a nod that yes, it's going to get passed on. And, I hope there will be some attention to this. There are many deaf people in the community here, and there are many deaf parents and children that are in the school system. I mean, there are no closed captions on many of the public events, and it seems like we're missing out as taxpayers and citizens of the city of Lowell. And there are many events that I miss out on because it's not accessible, and I won't go to a non-accessible event even for my own kids because it's not accessible.
Now, let me assure you, this is not a nod. We're not just shuffling this off. I think there is information that we will share tonight. I understand. I sat on that same commission on disability with you for 2 years, and I understand your frustration. Believe me, but with that, I think we're going to have a dialogue on your concern. This is why there is a public forum. There are issues. That's why we meet regularly to bring these forward, and we're going to find a solution to resolve this. So with that, I know some members want to speak, so if you just I'm sorry, there's someone else registered to speak. Is that okay? Mrs. Farmer, you registered to speak? And then Mr. Conway, I know you have a question, comment.
Thank you. My name is Amy Farmer, and and I'm a resident of Lowell. I emailed the school committee and the superintendent because I was concerned about my friend. I have seen with my own eyes, I saw the interpreter at the Robinson School, and even me with very poor ASL skills, I could see that there was something wrong, that she was, she wasn't getting it, she was missing information. I encouraged at one point my friend Cheryl to maybe watch my ASL as I was speaking and try to understand, because she's very patient. You have to understand that most of the ASL that I have learned, I learned from her. She sat with me, she taught me. I'm very, very slow, and I'm still, it's a very slow learning process. My compassion for people, regardless of who they are, where they might be in their life and position, goes beyond, all lines. And my heart, after seeing, what my friend was living through, and, felt like she's being denied and her hands were tied because she didn't have this access, and this accessibility. And so imagine only understanding several words out of what somebody's trying to see. Imagine being a mother and trying to get information on your children, in school, and find out, their activities and, what they're doing. And so I felt very concerned. And I saw that this law and this bill had been passed. And of course, it's, this is just brand new. This is as of, March 17th. So of course, we were questioning the current requirements, and her concerns with being at Lowell High School, seeing, the few interpreters there that, just can't communicate efficiently. So due to this new law becoming effective, we wanted to make sure that, the current interpreters are, fully aware that these other steps in the process are necessary, and that the current interpreters, are properly certified. And a hearing person, if you're just witnessing all of these hand motions, you really don't, understand. Obviously, if you don't understand what's going on, I mean, I could be doing this, and it, as a person who doesn't know ASL, you couldn't possibly know if I was using the correct word or not. And so, but a deaf person does know. A deaf person is like, and they're trying to have that voice, and they're trying to speak out about, their equal rights for accessibility, and, they get ignored, or, they have, certain, some promises made, and then those, fall through, or, and there's always a, kind of a ball dropping sort of, disconnect. And, and this is, a person who is, used to fighting for herself and her own access and, her rights as, as a human being. And often, we find that, when we have been wronged, that we do need to stand up for our rights. Because that's, it's human nature in us to either, fight or flight typically. But I just wanted to, agree with, what Cheryl, what my friend Cheryl had said, regarding this new law and regarding the accessibility that is available, to deaf and hard of hearing, not only students, but to increase, accessibility to mothers, fathers, people who are interested, family members. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for getting back to me, Kristen, on this matter, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. And
Yeah,
then we'll
thank
go
you,
to
Mr. Mayor.
Superintendent for a report.
I'd like to have a few questions to the superintendent, if that's all right.
Oh, no, that's what I said. We'll go to you, and then we'll get a report.
Okay. Are all the interpreters, are they certified by the state, Madam Superintendent? Is there a certification for interpreters or signers?
Madam Superintendent?
There is a quality of that has to be followed. I'm going to ask Ms. McChrystal, who's here, Special Education Director. She has done the research, but our interpreters have met a particular standard. There is not a license, as I recall, but there is a standard. Let me ask Ms. McChrystal, and then I can give you some other information.
Hi again, everybody. So I spoke to both of these ladies last week and this week and promised them that we would look into it and that this would not be something that would go by the wayside, because it is very important to us as a district that all students and parents have equal access, and we completely believe in that. And I asked them for a few days to do some research, and we're still in the process of gathering all of the data and figuring out exactly how, what certifications everybody has, and where we need to go forward to make sure they do take this test and pass the test. And if they can't meet those standards, then what are we going to do? So currently we have 3 sign language interpreters in the city. 2, one that works at the elementary school, and 2 that are currently at the high school. We don't have any deaf students at the middle school this year. They have passed some basic tests, but I'm not positive about all of their registrations, which is one of the data. I've asked them to give me that information this week. And there is the new test that was mentioned that is coming out, and they're going to have to be certified by September 1st, 2015. And that is obviously going to be something that we are going to ensure that they do, and we'd rather them do it sooner rather than later. So I'll have more in-depth answers probably by the end of this week, next week, Mr. Conway, but I've only had a few days since we got this data to start to look at it.
Let me just go
Conway?
back. Let me just go back for a minute here.
Yep.
Is there a certification for a signer
So
in Massachusetts?
So there are some basic certifications, as these ladies indicated, that they need to be certified by the Mass Commission for the Deaf and another agency. And then there's going to be this test that is going to be, that they're going to have to be certified. I do not know at this time what certifications they hold exactly. I've been communicating with our interpreters back and forth and asking them to produce all of the certifications
No,
they hold.
I understand that you're going to go and you're going to talk to them about whether they're certified, and you're going to do the research and so forth. I just want to know, is there a certification that is granted by the state for a signer?
So I believe, and they would know better this answer than
Okay.
I, because I've only had a day or two to look at it. That's part of the new law by September 1st, 2015. They are going to have to have a certain certification, but my understanding is they have to be registered right now, and there's a difference, I believe.
So in other words, before this law, anybody could come in and
Yes,
sign. Is
that's
that
my,
right?
that's my
All right.
understanding, and
Now,
I think that's their concern.
Let me just ask for a couple other questions here, Mr. Mayor. And I don't know who can answer this. When there's an interview for a signer or an interpreter, who sits in on those interviews?
So I can speak honestly, since I've been in this position or been in Lowell Special Ed Administration, we have not hired anybody for those positions. These positions have been filled by our interpreters for a while, but I can assure you, we would not hold any interviews without somebody who could sign to say, this is the quality of the interpretation. We would make sure there was somebody involved from the community and somebody who could be there to judge that, because obviously we couldn't.
Right.
But it has not been a position that's needed to be filled for a very long time.
And one other last question here, and I know I'm not going to actually probably describe this or say it the right way, but as far as the ASL is there different forms? Is there different forms of dialect, should we say, or signing? Is there more than one? That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so I'm going to defer to them, but as far as I know, there's American Sign, and then there's another type of
Okay.
sign language. American Sign is what's most typical.
Okay.
And I believe that's what our sign language interpreters are supposed to do.
So,
Ms. Quintel,
But
could you-
they would know better than I. I'm learning through this process, so.
Well, ASL is what I use. That's the only, it's ASL.
right, but
I was brought up with an oral method of communication. But, it really depends on the deaf person and what they're using, but ASL is the interpreter that I use, and it is an ASL interpreter. Oral interpreting would be just mouth movements. ASL is a visual language, so there are there's ASL, there's oral method.
okay. I thank you. I thank you for that. So it looks like then,
What would be confusing is there's an English-based sign language too, which really confuses people. ASL is the primary
okay,
language
that's,
that we use.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. Okay, all right. So in other words, you people, you're going to do the research to try to work this out? Yes, right. Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Martin?
But she wouldn't be the one determining the proficiency of the interpreter. It would be the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And they could watch somebody on video or something, and they have a screening process there that screens interpreters at a state level before they go on to get a national certification if they want that.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to work your way back. I can't wait. Thank you.
We're going to have more questions, that's all.
I just had a couple quick questions, and I'm hoping we might be able to give ourselves some time to get the information. But one of the key things is that, with the new law coming into place, just last month, it's not a situation that I've been aware of over the course of time. I would like to recommend, if we could, make a motion that a report be given, we bring this to the next personnel subcommittee. That would give the administration enough time to come up with a strategy, a protocol as to how we're going to implement this new EIPA standard that we'll need to bring into the district. And I think that certainly we need to ensure that the quality of educators, just like every other educator in our district, they all need to meet extremely high standards. This is certainly an area where we'll need to pay particular attention. I'd also like to say, and I would look at that as kind of the piece that's driven by the law, The other part I'm concerned about and that I'd like to get more information on is the integrated model that we have in place for our deaf students and how effectively that's working for our students. Just to be clear that would be, and I would defer to wherever we want to send that curriculum, wherever it needs to go, maybe student support services, whatever's most appropriate. I'm concerned when I hear that our students are being segregated for any reason, so I'd really like to get information not only on the administrative and the testing part of this, but I really would also like to get a report on how these students are being incorporated and integrated into our school system, so that we can ensure that on both sides of this equation, we're getting the information we need to make appropriate decisions for these students and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. So motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sigowitz, that we request two reports, one on interpretation of the new law and the standards that are required by the district to hire interpreters based upon the criteria in this new legislation, as well as a report on the integration model of education for deaf students. Right? Okay. Right? Are you good with that?
I'm happy that you mentioned that. I appreciate that, because the segregation of students and cochlear implants and deaf students is detrimental. You know, their social skills and their social development.
Could you get the microphone?
The separation of deaf students and students with cochlear implants is detrimental. I mean, because they are not able to pick up on just socializing with one another. I mean, you know, as a kid, it was great for me to socialize with other people, but where everyone's separate, it's very difficult for them to grow and develop. And
Thank you. Further discussion on this? Members, Mr. Gendron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know it was Ms. Ross-Stichowitz's motion. I don't know if I defer to you if you want to make some comments. I have a comment.
Yeah, the motion follows. I suppose we could take up this motion at the same time, but this was a second submission and then the motion to follow. So what is the wish of the body?
Let's take up the motion at the same time, I guess, if that's all right with you, Kristen.
What's the motion? It is item, well, it's the next item, actually. So we're going to take up her motion at the same time. Why don't we take a vote on Ms. Martin's motion, if that's okay, because this is up a motion. Pardon me? Yeah. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed, so ordered. So next motion is motion by Kristen Ross-Sikowitz, request the superintendent work with staff to compile a report on the accommodations made available to parents and caregivers of the Lowell Public School children who are hearing, visually and or physically impaired, and recommended actions to improve parent involvement for these same families. Second by Ms. Martin. Ms. Ross-Sikowitz?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very thankful that Ms. Quintal presented to us this evening and certainly shed a great deal of light in an area that obviously we have very little knowledge of. And, you know, we talk consistently about and beg for our parents to be involved. And here we have parents that desperately want to be involved in their child's education, and they don't have the necessary access to facilitate that process. So even in reviewing, I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit. Even in the period leading up to this meeting, the process by which Ms. Quintal would register to speak before us or to us, you know, and she required and she asked for a particular type of interpreter, an appropriate interpreter for this purpose, and that is not a process that's written out. You know, we have student manuals that go home to our parents sign off on them, and I think that when we look at our parent access plans, we need to be incorporating that piece. How do you as a parent access if you're deaf, if you're blind, if you're physically confined to your home? How do we embrace those parents and really truly partner with them in their child's education. So going beyond even just reviewing our student manuals that go home to every single household in the city, every student household in the city, in perusing the website, it's, we don't have a TTY line, which, or at least nothing that's apparent on our website. As I understand it, the city of Lowell, on the city side, does have a TTY line, but the Lowell Public Schools does not. So I look forward to a full evaluation of these systems. I think this is a terrific opportunity to unwrap this particular system and really come up with a terrific, comprehensive piece that would really create a much better access for many of our parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross-Sigurds. For discussion, Mr. General.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank...
Could I add something to your commentary? TTYs are really being phased out. Video phones are what most deaf individuals use. Video phone, if you're not familiar with it, is an interpreter that I would call the school system and be connected to the school through an interpreter from a remote location who would be signing on a screen that I would see and speak to you normally on the phone. So the TTY, I'm happy you mentioned that, because that is technology that is essentially being phased out and not used by as many people.
Okay, Mr. General.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Ms. Ross-Stitchwitz for putting this on the agenda tonight. This is a very important issue. First off, I'm wondering if the young lady who's interpreting tonight is looking for a job, because she seems to be doing a terrific job signing here tonight. And I'd like to thank Ms. Quintal for kidding.
Oh, yeah,
I'd like to thank
definitely
Ms.
her,
Quintal.
yeah.
I want to thank Ms. Quintal for coming.
Best.
I want to thank Ms. Quintal for raising this issue, because, this is something that, we could just be going along our way assuming that all the communication is happening properly, because we don't know any better. I'm thankful that your father, Ms. Quintal, taught you to stand up for yourself and speak up, because you raised an important issue here tonight. We need to make sure that that communication path is open properly to students who are deaf, because obviously they can be solid contributors to society and intelligent people. We just need to be able to educate them in the proper way. So I'm glad that this is on the agenda, and I'm glad we're going forward to see if we can correct the issue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, and the opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking time. We will, just moving forward, best way to communicate, Ms. Quintel, when there is a subcommittee meeting, Madam Superintendent, can we make sure that we contact Cheryl by email? Email? You have our word. Thank you very much. Ms. Ross-Sigurds?
Mr. Mayor, I might also recommend even pulling in partnership from the Disability Commission, because they touch on all of these different areas, and I think it would be really important to incorporate their experience and their feedback as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. We actually had the chairman of the Commission on Disability as well. That's here, Mr. Wilson. No objection from the members of the school committee. Motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Wilson, please come to the chair, to the podium, excuse me.
Hi, members of the school committee. My name is Jeff Wilson. I'm chairman of the Disability Commission here in Lowell. I would like to say that I'm very glad that Cheryl was able to finally accomplish bringing this matter to your attention. It is obviously quite a serious situation in the school system, and I'm glad that we've finally shed some light on this. What I wanted to make everyone on the committee aware of is the city is about to embark on a major accessibility audit. What this means is it's going to be an audit of all the facilities in the city, meaning traffic signaling, curb cuts, city buildings, city-owned buildings, and it's, as far as I know, it's also going to include the public schools, which would also include sign language interpreters, also video phones, communication devices for the deaf and hard of hearing, and police and fire also. Same thing, it's a very critical audit that we're going to be coming up on. That should be coming out very soon. I believe there is research being done to come up with an RFP, and there is a firm that will be brought on to perform this audit. Somerville, the city of Somerville has gone through one of these audits, and the final result was a 300-page document which highlighted where they're successful, where they need work, and it really is a good roadmap for any capital investment that they're going to need to make. So my suggestion is that, and I'm more than happy to work with anyone from the school committee. Our commission is more than happy to sit down with anyone and discuss this matter. But I really think that the audit will be very useful as far as a roadmap so you can see where the strong points are and where we're running a little bit deficient, and then we can go about correcting the matters. So I just would hate to see two separate bodies trying to work at the same thing. So I just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of this information, because this will probably be coming out within the next few months. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Appreciate it. Okay, seeing no further discussion, move on to the next item on the agenda. In the subcommittee report, we had a Lowell High School report and approval of minutes of the meeting of Monday, March 24th. Report by Mr. Conway. Mr. Conway?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a rather lengthy meeting, and again, I apologize in advance for a lengthy report on it. We met on March 24th at 6 p.m. Present, myself, Steve Gendron, Kristen Ross Sikowicz. Also present, Gene Franco, Superintendent, Claire Abrams, Assistant Superintendent, and Brian Martin, the Lowell High School Headmaster, Amy McLeod, Lowell High School Curriculum Coordinator. The agenda consisted of the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, the first item. Second item, summer school. Third, Lowell High School Administration interns. Fourth, Martin Athletic Complex. And the fifth, Lyceum Outreach. And there were also a number of different memos. To start in with the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. As we know, the high school has been working very hard putting this all together. It's the part of the accreditation that we have, the 10-year accreditation. Mr. Martin, the headmaster, reported the current activities that have been taking place, and he talked about the surveys that were given with students, distributed to students and staff and parents. Also talking about the committee work. There was a gentleman named George Edwards, who was the advisor for the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, came and visited the entire Lowell High School staff to meet with them and discuss the accreditation. Also, the steering committee, members of the steering committee has been visiting us, visiting other schools to observe how this process works, because once again, it's a process that happens every 10 years, and we certainly, there are some people that are knowledgeable in the area because they've gone through it before, but I think many people are new to it. The next steps would be gather and organize evidence and analyze the evidence and draw conclusions on how the high school is adhering to each standard. Further discussion took place and was suggested that the headmaster gather documents for the new members of the school committee, because once again, there's a lot of information that's been given out, and we happen to have that information. We've been going through it now for the last couple years, and I think that with 2 new members, in order to get them up to speed, I believe the administration is forwarding all that information to the new members. There was a motion by Ms. Ross Sikowitz, second by Mr. Gendron, to recommend to the committee as a whole to accept the report of progress. The second item was the summer school discussion. The headmaster and director of curriculum, Amy McLeod, presented an overall view and the plans of the retooling the summer school, I think, to try to make it more effective. Some of the steps, the team was going to look at the past summer schools data and evaluate the information. One of the things that they said that would be extremely important is that they were going to be hiring the coordinator in the next few weeks. And with the new coordinator on board early, I think the planning certainly would be extremely important. They also talked about the UTeach and the UML interns that will be working in the summer programs to assist in the teaching, which I think will be an excellent idea. The next steps would be the planning of courses, talking about science, math, and ELA. There was a motion by Ms. Ross Sikowitz, second by Mr. Gendron, to recommend the committee as a whole to accept as a report of progress. The third would be the Lowell High School administrative interns, and that was a motion by Mr. Leary and Kim Scott to request the superintendent report on the feasibility of Lowell High School administration assigning an administrative intern to each of the houses in the main building of the high school. And basically what came out of that was that, it probably isn't a bad idea, but the problem at this particular point is budget considerations, and that also individuals that are taken out of their particular program and shortening their program. And again, I think that it's something that we will probably revisit down the road to find out if there is, if we do get an influx of money, that we can take a look at that possibility of hiring those administrative interns. There was an idea, and I made this recommendation, which I think it might be a good recommendation, and that is many of the teachers are assigned a spare period or a period that they do their duty on, and some of the teachers certainly could take that time if they want and use that as administrative experience if that's something that they're inclined to. So again, it'll help to give a feeder system to the administration. The next was the Martin Athletic Complex. There was a motion by Mr. Gignac and Mr. Leary. Request the superintendent work with the city administration in order to provide recommendations and future funding sources for improvements to the facilities at the Martin Alumni Athletic Complex. The headmaster responded to the above motion, and I can certainly very pleased to say that there's some positive news here. The City Council has authorized $377,000 for the capital planning budget to complement a grant of $200,000 to refurbish the track, which was certainly in need, and runways at Colley Stadium. There will be a meeting that took place last week, and the project is planned for the coming June. Also, I think that they were talking about getting this entire project going, very optimistic to have it completed project by the summer. The master plan for improvements in being prepared that will address the needs of the James Martin softball and Stockloso alumni baseball fields which again is sorely needed. Ms. Rosikowicz, second by Mr. Gendron, a recommended committee as a whole to accept as a report of progress. The fifth point was the Latin Lyceum, and in the Latin Lyceum, that was a motion by Kristen Rosikowicz, requests the superintendent develop with staff a comprehensive outreach program to provide information about the Latin Lyceum program at the high school to the middle school children and their parents, with the primary intent of providing more and readily accessible information to our families and allowing families to set goals with their children with regard to testing and entry into Lowell High School Latin Lyceum. And again, to touch on some of the salient points there, the information and invitation for the test, that was going to be announced on the websites. Also, the emails to the guidance counselors, it was going to be mailed home, and also phone calls. The testing was going to be in 2 Saturdays in November. Informational meetings also, and there's a shadowing program that will be taking place, again, to try to entice individuals, our students, to become members of the Latin Lyceum. Mr. Martin also stated that he believes that other areas of outreach that can be put into place to address the Lyceum students as well as other students, grades 6 to 8, will be planning to attend Lowell High School. Some of the ideas: hiring a webmaster for Lowell High School, produce website virtual tours, WCAP radio spots, expand middle intramurals, and direct mail to households using updated consensus data. There was the next would be on memos by the headmaster. We have the first memo was by Mr. Headmaster, Mr. Martin, talking about the chancellor will be the guest speaker, the graduation speaker at this Lowell High School graduation, which I think that's absolutely a great idea. The next one is the student surveys, and this was in regards to the hours at the high school, whether it should start earlier or perhaps or keep it the same. And there's surveys that are going out right now. They're analyzing, they'll be collecting. This is a process that's going to take a while before we get all the evidence on the table. The next memo was about the Ironstone Farm, which, again, I'm glad that we have that partnership out there. These are certainly for students with challenges, and it seems to be working pretty well, and I'm glad to see that that has been forged. Navient's update, Mr. Martin stated that this college and career readiness program is working out extremely well for the high school. So again, that's something that we're very happy about. The next would be the schedule for a visit of the NASA astronaut. The Headmaster Martin discussed the draft schedule for the visit of Commander Christopher Cassidy, which will be on the Thursday and the Friday to Lowell. And the last one was the math scores at Lowell High School, and we talked about Miss Amy McLeod talked about improving the scores through different types of methods, because they seem to be not going necessarily in the positive way that they would like, so they're going to put an extra effort into it to make sure that that takes place. Motion by Ms. Rosikowicz, second by Mr. Gendron, to recommend to the committee as a whole to accept the report of progress, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Further discussion on it? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Gendron, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed? Report is accepted. Next item under subcommittees, curriculum report of the meeting of Tuesday, April 1st, 2014 by Ms. Martin, chairperson. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Our meeting last night, we do not have the written minutes for the committee's review. As I said, it just happened last night, so you'll be receiving those in the next packet. I will give a brief update now. We had 4 basic topics we were discussing last night. First was a report from the mathematics vertical team from the work that's been going on across the district. One of the charges that we had given to this group was the idea that we wanted to be able to offer a higher level of programming, particularly in the 8th grade, looking at having basically the high school Algebra 1 become the standard for 8th grade students in our district. I think that ultimately that is definitely the direction that we all remain committed to moving towards. I can say, having heard the report from Assistant Superintendent Abrams and her team, we recognize that a great deal of work has gone into kind of reviewing how viable this plan is right now. I think that particularly right now, when we're coming off a year, we had some real challenges in our last MCAS scores. They showed some real dips that we've been particularly sensitive to in this past year. The shift to Common Core has had a big impact on what we're teaching and the way we're teaching. So the recommendation that had come from the administration was that rather than moving forward in the next school year to bring Algebra 1 into the 8th grade, what we're going to need to do is provide our students, our high-performing students, at the 7th grade level with accelerated programming so that then in the next school year they could be successful in an 8th grade that was Algebra 1. I think it does make great sense. The idea that before we can, implement this in any real way at the 8th grade level, we do need to make sure that we're taking the extra time when those students are in 7th grade to ensure that they can be successful. So it was the recommendation from the administration to the subcommittee. I would put it forth as a motion this evening that we instruct the administration to implement the accelerated mathematics programming at the 7th grade level for the next school year, anticipating that in school year 15-16, we'd then be able to appropriately implement an 8th grade Algebra 1 program across the district.
Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Ross Sikowitz to direct and instruct the superintendent to implement the accelerated math level program for the 7th grade, beginning of the 7th grade level, starting next school year.
14-15.
For the 14-15 school year. Further discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. Our second topic was discussing the possibility of creating the new, I guess we'll call it the new Rogers for right now, the new Rogers Elementary School, which we're looking to have online in an even more complete sense in our next school year, again, school year 14-15, and looking at this as I think, a very unique opportunity to build almost from the ground up a STEM-focused elementary school here in our district. We don't have to look any further than about an hour and a half ago to see what science programming can do in our district and what it can mean for students. The idea of being able to craft this school in a really thoughtful and ambitious way for our elementary students. I think it's a particularly unique opportunity given some of the monies that we have available to invest right now. Just the scope of having an almost empty school to start with, I think, is a really unique situation for us, certainly here in the city of Lowell. And while I realize that there is going to be real pressure and real challenges to make this happen in time for the 14-15 school year, I'm impressed enough by the serendipity of these different kind of aspects of it to think that if we push and we push hard, we should be able to make this happen. Recognize it's a challenge, but I think we'd never be in another position to do this again. I really, truly believe that. So we did discuss what the STEM school can look like. I think one of the key things, the administration has begun the process of pulling together expertise from within our district to talk about how we create this. The subcommittee had also made the recommendation that we bring in some industry experts, people who are working in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. Let them inform this process so that we can really have that kind of expertise from the very beginning planning stages. I think one of the key things is that we need to be looking at this to include, it's going to include issues of hiring, how we bring teachers into this new school community who have, both, exceptional pedagogy backgrounds, but also have content knowledge. This is a different way, it should be a different way of teaching. So we really are going to need to ensure that we have the appropriate staff who can make that happen. And the other area that I am particularly interested in is developing what the protocol would look like, what the prereqs look like for students who we want to bring into this specific kind of environment. Students who have, I mean, we're talking young students, so it's not going to be like a pretest that you give them to find out what their physics ability is. What we're going to need to do is come up with what the profile of a successful STEM student, someone who will really succeed in this kind of environment, looks like, so that parents can make informed choices that this would be the best choice for their students. So again, the subcommittee recognizes there is a great deal of work to be done, and there will be a great deal of pressure to do this well. But I think that the timing being everything, we have a unique opportunity right now to do that. I'd put that forth as a report of progress, and we'll be anticipating another report at our monthly meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Ross-Sigurd, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
No, and I have two other topics.
Two other topics, Ms. Martin?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I know everyone was excited and thought I was done.
I like that enthusiasm.
We did have a report from the administration on homework. Really, it was just providing to us what's provided to all of our parents in the handbook. You know, we have homework standards. The expectation, they certainly range. First graders, they should be expecting 20 to 30 minutes up through high school students. I'm sorry, through 7th and 8th grade students who can have an hour up to 2 hours of homework time to be expected. High school does function a little differently because it is class-based, so they don't have kind of a max number. But we did receive that information. Again, it is provided to all of our parents in their handbooks. The next step, which I think is even far more important, will be getting a report from the administration at our next monthly meeting, letting us know the frontline information, letting us know at each school, how is this being implemented? How are we ensuring that at each level an appropriate amount of homework is going home with our students, that it is going home? It's not, we've heard reports certainly that there are concerns that students are doing their homework at school and not bringing it home. So the next phase of this report will be, I think, particularly telling, so we can look forward to that at our next meeting. And then the final topic we discussed was community service. It was a motion by our colleague, Mr. Gendron, to try to create community service opportunities in line with Earth Day. I think the report we had gotten from the administration was certainly encouraging, that there are a great many community service activities that are going on throughout our district, which is very exciting and offer wonderful opportunities for our students. We talked about elementary students across the district participating in a partnership with Demoulas Market Basket, where they're decorating bags that will then, using a kind of ecological theme, and then those will be distributed at the various stores. I usually go with plastic, but who knows, maybe we'll try something different. We also had some great partnerships with Mill City Grows, who are doing gardens throughout the district with a number of our different schools. And I think that we'll really, I think the charge from the subcommittee was to really look at how we can better orchestrate. There are so many great activities going on. A lot of them, we're not aware of. I'm sure there are, we could have some great opportunities to work across the district on different activities. I know from this committee's perspective, community service is an institutional value that we treasure here in the Lowell Public Schools and certainly in the city as a whole. So it's something that we'll be looking to tie even more strongly to curriculum in the next year and to coordinate even better across the entire district. So I would submit that as the complete report of progress from that subcommittee. I think I was a little bit shorter than Mr. Conway. I'm just guessing.
I think you're a lot
Not
shorter than
much.
Mr. Conway. I had to sit down for Mr. Conway's report. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Conway, second by Mr. Gendron. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, reports of the superintendent. Item 12, school committee meeting dates, 2014, 2015. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. You have a copy of the projected school committee meeting dates for next year. There is one date, February 18th. It does fall on a school vacation week. And I wanted to bring that fact before the committee to see if you wanted to switch that date at this point to the 11th or the 25th, 7 days before, 7 days after, for your review. All of the other dates do not have that conflict.
Mr. Leary?
I just want to make a motion that we'd switch to the 25th of February. A lot of folks are on vacation that week as a school week, and I don't think many people are, well, first, personally, I wouldn't be here because I'll be taking a vacation that week. And I think the second issue is most other folks with children in the system will be taking their vacation as well because they can't be missing any time from school. So I make that as a form of a motion. We move to the 25th. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Leary to change the date from the 18th to the 25th. Second by Ms. Martin.
Yeah, for the purpose.
Yep. Ms. Martin?
Could I just say, and I understand the concerns, of moving the date and that with the vacation that can be a conflict. So we're looking at having it the 4th, rather than the 3rd, having it the 4th, Wednesday. Is that
I
correct?
could even, and we could make it the 11th as well. I mean, the date, as long as that week, I think, is a school vacation week, whatever's the best fit for the membership. I know it's actually next year, it's kind of a way off.
Yeah.
But, I guess the idea is really, that week, folks are taking a vacation. If someone's interested in this, in the schools, and you're away for that week, you're not going to see it. And again, personally, and I'll be upfront, I'm going to be probably on vacation that week and away. I don't want to miss a meeting, so I'll be upfront and say it's a little bit myopic here. But there are other people who are in the same situation, and I'd be willing to do the 11th or a different date. That matters not. The key is that is a vacation week for our schools on the calendar.
Ms.
Thank
Martin?
you.
And I am a fan of myopia, so no worries. Because I have my own right now. If we could go to the 11th, I'd appreciate it. I do have a standing commitment for a board meeting where I work on the 4th Wednesday, so it would be a difficult conflict for me to navigate. But if we could make it on the 11th, I would certainly be amenable
Okay,
to that.
the motion was for the 25th, so will you withdraw the
Could I make
the
a friendly
second?
amendment to the motion to move it to the 11th?
If there's no objection, we'll just withdraw the motion. No objection on the second. Motion to withdraw. New motion, make it the 11th. Okay, motion by Mr. Leary to change the date from the 18th to the 11th. Second on the motion, second by Ms. Rosikowicz. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any further questions on this item? Motion to accept the report and place on file by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item is item number 13, substitute teacher pool and program update. Oh, I'm sorry, we needed a roll call on that last motion.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Madam Superintendent, it's substitute teacher pool and program update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a report in response to a motion by Mr. Leary requesting that the superintendent provide the school committee an updated report regarding changes made, if any, to the substitute teacher program. Report should include current status of our substitute teacher pool and additional recommendations to improve the program. The information in the report looks at that we have done a better job at advertising. It is always on SchoolStream. We have had more response to new people. There is a monthly training that continues to occur for substitutes at this particular point. In advertising the open positions is always looking at if we can have substitutes apply. Additionally, we're in the process right now of joining the job fairs. There's a UMass Lowell job fair. There are many other job fairs that are happening in the area that we are going to. And substitute teachers are, even if people are looking for jobs, they are actually asked if they would like to come on board as our substitutes. The management improvement, if you look at the third page, there has been more structured interviews. So the personnel department is looking at having more intensive interviews for the substitute teachers when they do come in. And So that has been expanded. They also are trying to meet the needs if there's a particular request for a grade level. That has been going on at the personnel office. As far as the workshop presentation that we have been doing monthly for a good amount of time, there have been some modifications in that particular piece. There is an online kind of way to apply for that presentation. They have looked at the workshops, reviewed the current curriculum, so upgraded the curriculum in that training that we give to substitutes. There's also an additional part on classroom management. So the presentation has been delivered for a number of years from a retired teacher. The Assistant Director of Human Resources, Ms. LeBron, has joined that training to do some upgrading and updating on that curriculum along with the teacher who does that. There also is a writing sample that is now required of the substitutes that are applying for our district. And also, at the schools, they have a standardized substitute plan. So if there's a form that they're asking for the substitutes when they come in. We're asking our principals to do mandated walkthroughs to making sure they're checking those classrooms to make sure that the quality is at a better place. So there have been some improvements at all levels, trying to get more recipients to more participation for substitutes.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Discussion, Mr. Leary.
Thank you. First, Madam Superintendent, thank you very much. Thank your folks for putting this together. The reason why when the motion was made is because we did have teacher complaints, not only for teachers that, had to deal with situations in their school because of different substitutes. So I do appreciate the thoughtfulness that has gone into it by you and your staff. I think the key components, though, that I need to get a little more reassurance as we go forward, do the principals have the ability to not have somebody in their building? Because it's really, they're the ones who are held accountable to the day in and day out of the education. So I guess that's the first question I really have.
Madam Superintendent.
I have an answer for that question. Any given day where there are any issues with substitutes, the personnel office is called immediately, and that person is basically not allowed to substitute again. That's been going on for forever. I mean, we do assist on the training. We ask for people to be checking in. Education is totally aligned with walkthroughs all the time. It's just how we do business. But if there are any issues or concerns, and I have to be truthful, Mr. Cassidy will either remove that person from the substitute list, and if the person thinks that there's reason, there are appeal processes like everything else in our system, but immediately, if that's reported, that is followed up with that day. So that's something that is part of our
Well, more in particular, if the principal doesn't just simply, if the person's not having high-quality instruction, they can do it as well, or not just issues? I would assume issues, that was already in place.
Yes.
But you're saying if someone's just not able to deliver high-quality instruction.
Yes. I'll give you an
This is
example.
equally, it's important.
Exactly. I'll give you an example. Recently, there was a report of cell phone usage, like consistently by a particular person. That person was asked, that is not part of what they're supposed to be doing, and they were asked not to return. And it was more than one occurrence. So I just want to know that our principals at all levels are very, very focused on safety and what's good for our children. So there is absolutely follow-up. And additionally, the teacher teams in the general area are always looking, but we have incidences of when it does not work out, then we do intervene.
No, and I appreciate that. I think the teacher teams are really where this complaint originated from.
Yeah.
I recognize the effort that has gone into by you and Mr. Cassidy and others. The key, I think, when we get into budget time is really looking at the whole dynamic, how we hire the subs in terms of maybe we hire them permanently throughout the year, maybe we get different quality, I don't know. But again, I do appreciate this. I look at this as not the end of the story, but a good positive first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Further discussion? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gendron. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next agenda item. Still under reports of the superintendent. English Language Learners Program and Family and Community Events. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to make the committee aware of some of the special population parent programs and meetings that have happened. The English Language Learner Family Night had the attendance of more than 100 parents and was held on March 20th. There were a number of newcomer parents that were there at that particular time, and Ms. Abrams goes on to explain to me that there will be an awards night at Lowell High School cafeteria to recognize English language learners for their academic achievement on May 29th from 6 to 8. There are also a follow-up of upcoming events celebrating a city of refugees, community of citizens. There are upcoming culture ceremonies, film screenings, as well as a very important one that people might want to be aware of, which is the Refugee Conference Day. That has been going on for a number of years. That's at Middlesex Community College on May 23rd. There's a separate invitation for that particular evening. There also is on Sunday, April 17th, a important Ulster culture, religion, tradition. So you have received, and these are all on our website, but we wanted to make you aware that specialized meetings for our newest parents have been put into place.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Further discussion? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress and place on file by Ms. Scott, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sikowitz. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, and the opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Next item, still under reports of the superintendent. Astronaut Commander Christopher J. Cassidy visits Lowell. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have been part of a group who has been working in collaboration with University of Massachusetts, Lowell, Middlesex Community College, and others to welcome astronaut Christopher Cassidy, who's coming tomorrow morning, starting with breakfast here, 7:45. And this is an honor for the city to welcome this space station astronaut and Navy SEAL who has a very impressive career and lots of information of interest. We are very excited that in this visit, Commander Cassidy will be with us for an entire day. So tomorrow there will be, besides the welcome, a visit to the Sullivan School, followed by Lowell High School, where he will meet with students, but also talk to career military children through the ROTC, and there'll be lunch with young people, we hope, and then going on to the McAuliffe School. So as well as the celebration and the honor continues with UMass Lowell and the next day at Middlesex Community College. So our schools are very excited. Students have done research. We are very excited to welcome this gentleman to our community tomorrow and Friday.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Mr. Conway, did you want to say anything on this?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back a number of months ago,
I know you wanted to say something.
I know. It'll be briefer than the Lowell High School Subcommittee.
So I pull my chair up.
And by the way, and I guarantee one thing, the next Lowell High School Subcommittee meeting will be very brief, very brief. I was very fortunate that we had an opportunity to bring my nephew, Chris Cassidy, and we just know him as our nephew, Chris Cassidy, but when you look at his background, it's absolutely incredible. And when I sat down and I talked to him, it was before he went on the space station, he said, you know, if you want me to come to Lowell, after I get back and I get everything straightened out. He said, I'd be very happy to come over. I said, that's absolutely fantastic. So I called Eileen Donahue and Steve Pangiotakis, and the three of us went up to see Marty Meehan, chancellor at the university, because we knew that this was something that was very complicated. And we sat down with some of his staff, and he was extremely excited. And he helped to put this together. And it's been literally going on for months, the meetings, because it's kind of complicated, because there's so many different entities that are involved. And I would just like to take a couple minutes to thank the people that did make this happen. The Lowell Public Schools, again, it's a great example of a partnership, and our students are going to see someone that not only is an astronaut, but he was also a Navy SEAL, and a week after 9/11, Commander Cassidy led ground troops of the Navy SEALs into Afghanistan. And you can imagine what that was like, and needless to say, that's something that nobody ever really talks about. But then going on to become an astronaut, when you really think about two incredible walks of life, and he's going to share those experiences with our students. And usually we only get one day with an astronaut, but he agreed with, I think, a little arm twisting from my wife that he would be here for 2 days. So I want to thank the Lowell Public Schools, Gene Franco. I also want to thank June Cormier for all the different emails and coordination going back and forth. Brian Martin has done an incredible job helping put this together. The Sullivan School with Jackie Payton and Jane Campbell. Again, they're very excited, the staff up there and the students putting this together. The McAuliffe School, Nan Murphy and Mike Ducharme. And obviously UMass Lowell, Marty Meehan, who was right up there front and so excited about it. DJ Cochran and Emily Byrne. Again, they helped to coordinate the UMass part of it, and they are the ones that went back and forth to NASA. And again, I think it's a great opportunity for us to create a partnership, and that's what we're really looking for, because UMass is creating a partnership with them, and I think that we also can do the same thing. I also want to thank Carol Cowan and Jay Linehan. They stepped up to the plate, and coming to those meetings all the time were Colleen Cox and Maria Cunha and Molly Sheehy, once again showing strong partnership. And just a few other quick thank yous to NASA for allowing him to come here. And Mayor Rodney Elliott, I thank you. You've been extremely helpful in this very, very long process. And there's been a lot of ups and downs and changes, and again, you've been very, very, very helpful. Former State Senator Steve Pangiotakis, Kara Keefe from Senator Donahue's office, Captain Crowley for coordinating the police escorts, and obviously I have to mention my wife, because my wife really helped to put a lot of this together too. And needless to say, the teachers and the staff, but most importantly, the students, because those are the ones that are going to gain out of this. The elementary, the middle school, the high school, the college, and also the university. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and I thank all these people for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Conway. And I have to congratulate you for all your dedication and perseverance on this. I think it's going to be a proud moment for the city for the next 2 days, as well as a wonderful opportunity for the kids in the school system and throughout the entire community. So looking forward to tomorrow and the next 2 days. So job well done. Further discussion on this motion? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Gendron, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, item number 16, communication from the superintendent, early release conflict. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, the next early release day, we need to change on the calendar. The date fell on a date where we are having the mathematics test at Lowell High School. The window of mathematics testing is only 2 days for the high school, and that is the graduation requirement test. And so we were asking for one time only to switch the day of early release to the next day of May 14th for this important event.
Okay, entertain a motion to change the early release day for the entire district to Thursday, May 15th. Is that correct? Motion by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor? Is that a roll call? Roll call. Ms. Martin?
I did just want to make the comment, and I know it's already being planned right now, but we really will need to ensure that we get this information out to parents every possible way we can, you know, using every media outlet, every social media outlet, our ConnectEd phone calls, any emailing capacity we have. I just really think that it's important that all of our parents are aware of a dramatic change. So just, again, I know plans are underway. I would just caution that we need to be as broad in our outreach as we possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Motion carries. Next item is a vote on the new business. Vote determination of MSBA priority application. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As this committee knows, we have been studying the facilities across our system for a year, and we have forwarded 5 statement of interests. This group and met with the City Council. We also met with the state representatives and the Massachusetts School Business Authority to look at a priority piece. In looking at all of the priorities for the future, we have to make the best decision for the outcomes of the priority project. I recommend that Lowell High School become the priority project, and we move forward with this particular project as a priority. As you all know, after the fact, the MSBA comes to Lowell, they look into the feasibility, and we begin the study. Then we begin the interaction with them after August and September, but it is my recommendation as superintendent of schools that for the good of youth down the road, that the priority project should be the Lowell High School project. I welcome any questions, concerns you may have.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Discussion. Mr. Gendron, then Ms. Rosikowicz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to comment a little bit on the meeting that we all had down at the State House a couple weeks ago. Several of us made that trip with some of the city councilors and the state delegation, met with the leaders of the MSBA, and I think it was a great meeting. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your suggestion in setting that up. I really think cleared up a lot of uncertainty around the whole issue, and really gave us a vision of how this would all play out. And if I may, I'd just like to bring up a couple of key items that I took out of that meeting. One was that clearly we have to pick one project. We can't, bundle projects. We need to pick one school, one project, and make that our priority. I think that alone, in my mind, I think we need all these projects, right? No question about it. We need them all. I think they all obviously have value. But in my mind, if we're looking at, if we're going to go forward with a project and a competitive bid, and we want to gain as much reimbursement for the city as we can on a project, clearly the high school is the one that is going to bring the most state money here to Lowell to help us with our education system. And I got the impression that all 5 projects were not ruled out. It's possible they could look at all 5 of our applications and say we want to do a big project with the city of Lowell and do all of this. The other thing they mentioned is that they told us about another community that was facing a similar similar situation with their high school and middle schools, almost a much smaller community, but almost the exact same situation. And what they did in that community is they came out, that community made the high school their priority for much the same reason, and they came out and they devised a solution that actually addressed the middle school problem at the same time. So they won't be ignorant of our middle school issue if we make the high school the priority. The other thing they brought out was, this is a competitive process we have here, right? So this is, we want to make sure, we're going to be competing against other communities for this pile of money that they have, and we want to make sure we put forth the project that is most likely to win. And they pointed out that the key elements that they look at are programming that you're unable to deliver because of the facility, and any health and safety issues. If we look through that lens, I really think that the high school pops out as the facility that is most likely to gain acceptance in the MSBA when you compare it to all the other schools. And finally, just to underscore what the superintendent said about follow-up on this, they are going to come out here, and just because we have a plan from OMR that says, for $240 million, we're going to build this high school on this spot, they're really not going to pay much attention to that. They're glad we have it. It's valuable information, but they're going to come out and do a complete analysis on the situation and shepherd us down the most cost-effective path to solve the problem that we have. So they told us, we want a statement of your problem and not a solution. You give us a statement of your problem, and we'll devise a solution that will address that problem. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So in summary, I really feel as though Lowell High School is the facility in the greatest need here, and investing in Lowell High School will make the greatest impact on the city and on the school department. So I would support the superintendent's recommendation that we make Lowell High School the priority. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Ms. Ross-Sikowitz, and then Mr. Conway.
Thank you. I just had a couple of things to add. Number one, I'm going to support this priority of putting forward our high school. I know that sort of my heart goes with the K through 8 only for the fact that our classrooms, well, I'm sorry, there's such high demand for our seats in those grades, and that presents us with a real challenge. So beyond this particular vote, this particular night, we as a committee, as a district, really need to take a really very thoughtful look at how we're using all of our existing facilities in this district. Our projections every single year seem to increase and increase and increase, and we're seeing these bubbles come through, and it's not lessening. So we're still going to have a problem today, the same problem today that we will in 5 years. So I don't want to be caught, I don't want us, our city, to be caught behind the 8 ball in 5 years because we haven't addressed the issues that we're facing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Conway?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo what my colleague said as far as the meeting at the State House. I think there was a little bit of confusion, I think, going forward, and after sitting down there was, I think everything seemed to clear up a little bit better. At least I felt better about the whole situation. And when I take a look at the recommendation from the superintendent, I certainly tend to agree with her. I mean, we have some issues in the school department, in our buildings, and to be quite frank with you, I don't think there's been a lot of money invested in our buildings in the last decade. And just like any structure, if we do not invest in the structure, if you don't invest in your own home, you know what happens. It starts to fall apart. And I think that's what we see with some of our buildings. We have two pressing problems right now. We have some structural problems and some physical problems at the high school. And we have some overcrowding in that elementary / middle school. And they both have to be addressed. Down there at that meeting in Boston, they talked about there was approximately $500 million that they start off with each year. They're obviously, as Mr. Gendron said, a very competitive process. There are a number of different towns and cities looking for money to improve their buildings. One of the things that I think going forward we need to take a very good look at, back when the architectural firm talked about some of our buildings being 30 years old and they're basically middle age, that was alarming. To think that our buildings that we put up a number of years ago are only going to last 50 or 60 years. The house that I'm living in right now is about 125 years old. It's still standing. And I think that what we need to do is, going forward, we need to take a good look at this process and oversee it. Make sure that the people taking a look at the structure when any of these structures are built, that it's done properly. Because when we're talking about this kind of money, this is a tremendous amount of money that we're talking about investing, not just from the state, but also from the city. And I think it's important that the taxpayer realizes and knows that we're going to do the very best we possibly can to spend that dollar as wisely as possible. So, again, when I listened to the MSBA, they certainly talked about every year there'd be another process and another application, and I certainly would like to see that follow-up to make sure that we address the elementary and the middle school. And as my colleague said too, we might have one plan or one idea, and when they come in, it could be something completely different, because they are certainly going to come in, and these individuals have been, they were in here, I believe, a year and a half ago, and they have a pretty good idea of what needs to be done. So again, I will support this project also. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Mr. Leary?
Just thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. When we brought this forward last year, when I put this motion forward and the committee supported it in full, it was a leap of faith, being full well aware that this was a long process with many twists and many turns. Last night, the City Council began that leap of faith with us, and I first want to thank them very much for doing so. Being fully cognizant, we knew from the very beginning that this was the very beginning of the process, and that the MSBA, as well as other factors will involve, could change the process. I think Mr. Gendron said it best tonight, is what the MSBA basically presented, is that you have issues that need to be solved K through 12, which is what this committee has tried to take on. And what they want to do is provide solutions K through 12. We provided a lot of ideas and really a good structure to begin that discussion, but that's what it is, at the beginning of that discussion. These votes are, in a way, sort of courageous, because it does take a leap of faith saying, we really have an issue, we want to solve it. Once we begin the dialogue with the MSBA throughout the summer and the fall, then we'll start to begin to get into the process in terms of how this will actually develop for the city, and what involvement. So there'll be other votes to take, there'll be other parts of the community will have to need to weigh in. And specifically the MSBA is going to come here to help solve an issue. My colleague, Ms. Rosikwich, points out clearly that we have issues in our middle school. And I believe by taking this vote, we're going to start to address those concerns. In addition, keep in mind that those concerns, even if they are ready to start building, won't happen for 3 to 5 years down the road. So we need to come up with solutions for the current situation. And I think at the next meeting, we'll have probably a few motions in regards how to begin that for that short term as we develop our relationship working with the MSBA in the entire city. Again, thank you to the City Council for supporting it, and I encourage my colleagues, which I think from listening tonight, that we're going to go forward with this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. The chair recognizes Mayor Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to underscore a couple of comments that have already been made by my colleagues. I was pleased that the delegation accommodated and facilitated this meeting so quickly with really senior level officials at MSBA. And I think that they delivered a very concise and practical description and explanation of the process and the track that we should be going down. As was mentioned, there's $500 million per year in appropriation and authorized. So knowing that, I think they gave us very good guidance, as well as I think Mr. Gendron mentioned it. They actually provided somewhat of some options moving forward with the recommendation for the high school, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to support this. But we also let them know that we have competing issues with our middle schools, and moving forward, this feasibility study that they will come and conduct over the summer very well may come up with options and maybe alternatives to kill two birds with one stone. So I think it's an important project moving forward. They were very clear in what their criteria is, curriculum that you cannot deliver as a result of lack of facilities and accommodations. And I think both the middle schools and certainly the high schools fit into that criteria very well. So I do think the cost effectiveness nature of this also drives this, knowing that they have limited resources for so many demands throughout the state. They are going to come in, they're going to go through the our report with a fine-tooth comb and say this is the most cost-effective way to do this. Because bearing in mind, I think the other significant point that was made, that the current reimbursement, back in the 90s when we did 14 to 15 schools, the reimbursement was a 90-10 split. That's changing, and by all accounts, and according to the SBA officials, it's going to continue to change. That we're right on 80% now, 79.6. So I think that's an important aspect too. So not to really reiterate everything that's already been mentioned, but I think this is the project that we need to move forward on, and I think it's good. It's a good step for the community and the city as a whole. And getting 80 cents back on the dollar, that's an important facet to keep in mind, knowing these facilities need attention in order to be upgraded. So I'm going to support the recommendation. Thank you.
Any other comments? I don't know if you'd like to.
I was just going to make the motion that we, did you have comments, Ms. Martin? I'm going to make the motion that we support the Lowell High School as a priority project on this MSBA recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Gendron, seconded by Mr. Leary, to support the recommendation to proceed with sending communication to MSBA that the priority project be the Lowell High School. Further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
7 yeas, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion that we take these next three requests as one item?
Motion by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz, that we take the next three items under convention conferences request, item number 18, 19, and 20. Entertain a motion. Let me just read them. Entertain a motion to approve these three travel requests by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gendron.
Yep.
Roll call.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Motion carries. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, communications. Under communications, first one is a free citywide family resource fair on Wednesday, April 9th, 2014, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Rogers School Gymnasium. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, this is an annual meeting that we have to just make our families aware of opportunities for the summer, and we just wanted to bring it to your attention. It's a resource fair with parent liaisons that will be taking place, recreational programs and whatnot that are offered.
Thank you. Further discussion? Motion to accept and place on file by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item under communications, Annual Refugee Conference, Friday, May 23rd, 2014, from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the MCC cafeteria. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just quickly, this is the 11th Annual Refugee Conference, specifically looking at the mental health needs of our refugees, especially the newest group that's joining our city, the Congolese.
Thank you. Further discussion? Motion to approve by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to accept and place on file. Next item on the agenda is professional personal development. Members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby request to donate 11 sick days to the Lowell High School paraprofessional, Tasha Sampson. Motion to approve by Mr. Gendron, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Motion carries. Next item, number 24. The members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby request to donate 21 sick days to Stocklosa School teacher Heiner Weiss.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Roll call.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Having no further business before the committee tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Rosikowicz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.